So you just blew up your STI and you want to know how much money it's going to cost you to rebuild one of these things. And just a quick disclaimer, it is not cheap. I hope you guys have your wallets and your tissues ready because you're going to be needing both of those throughout the video. And by the time you hear the final price tag of my rebuild, you may consider selling your car. I'm just kidding. You guys will be all right. I've gone through multiple rebuilds myself. I've blown up my FA20 multiple times and now my EJ25 just once so far. We'll be talking about the different factors that go into the rebuild, as well as why I chose certain parts, why you would choose certain parts, talking about the price tags, of course, which you guys ultimately care for. So hopefully you guys enjoy this content. And if you do, please leave me a like as it really helps out the channel. We're very, very close to 500 subscribers. So hopefully you guys enjoy the video and let's jump right into it. So why do we need to rebuild our EJ25? You would think with 20 plus years of experience, Subaru would have fixed these problems by now, but unfortunately they have not. These two main problems that the EJ platform suffers from come down to two things: head gasket issues, the second one being oil starvation issues, whether that be the AVCS banjo bolts. Subaru puts these filters on the banjo bolts for the AVCS that are supposed to catch all of the contaminants that are flowing through the oiling system. However, those screens in the bolts themselves act like restrictions when it comes to oil flow. So a lot of people just end up taking them out. Or you have issues like me with the oil pickup, the tray or pan, and the baffle system in itself. I was driving to work one night. I was working night shift at the time, which is actually why the channel's called Night Shift, but that's another story. I was driving and I was taking a really sharp turn, very aggressively, accelerating as I was turning. And by the time I got to work, I realized I heard a very faint, very weird noise. And by the time I got home, after I got off, it was around 6:30 in the morning. And it was very apparent what happened. And I had rod bearing failure. Now, I don't know exactly what caused it. Obviously, oil starvation issues caused it. However, I don't know exactly whether that be the oil baffle, the pickup, or the pan itself. Now, there's a reason why IAG and Killer Bee sells a lot of these oil pickups, baffles, and pans themselves, because the oiling system in this car sucks. It is what it is. But that's the main reason why people end up having to rebuild these cars. The oiling system in the EJ25 is just not good. Now, how much did that little mistake cost me? Well, it was fairly expensive. Just bear in mind, you could do this a lot cheaper if you don't pay somebody to do it yourself. However, I paid somebody to do it for two main reasons. I was working two jobs at the time. I had no time to do this rebuild. I also didn't have the space I have now. I can work on cars where I live. It's just not ideal, so I got this space. I love this space. That's where I've done all my other videos in terms of modifying my STI. So let's just jump right into it, of course. For the labor, it cost me $4,070, and that was for 22 hours worth of labor. I think when I did the math off the top of my head, that sounds about $185 per hour. That included removal of the engine, disassembly of the engine, parts cleaning, assembly of the long block, installation of timing, components, accessories, and the engine into the car, the initial startup, and the oil change at 30 minutes. And then when it comes to the labor of the cylinder heads, now we're gonna get into the engine here. Machine shops vary depending on location and how severe the damage is. Now, from my experience on my WRX, machine shops typically cost somewhere between $750 and $1,200, $1,300, depending on what they need to do. In my case, the damage was pretty low, if I'm being honest. It ended up costing me $650, and that was to clean, pressure test, check the valve guide tolerance, replace valve stem seals, reassemble, and the final cleaning. Now, as far as the engine and what I ended up doing, now I'm not including this in this price because I paid for the engine and all the components out of my own pocket. So I went with the IAG 550, that was $4,000. IAG wrist pin and cover seals for the short block itself, that was $126. The IAG Stage 1 11mm oil pump, which was $380. IAG pickup, oil baffle, and tray, that ended up costing me a whopping $315 because I got the entire package together. And just a quick disclaimer, I do not recommend getting the Killer Bee oil pickup, baffle, and tray or pan, just because there have been reports on the NASIOC forums, which are the Subaru forums, that the Killer Bee is also known to fail. I forgot what point off the top of my head. If I can remember, I'll put it in the description or a comment down below. But I would just stick with IAG in terms of the oil pickup, the baffle, and the pan. So when you go through a rod bearing failure, which is what I did, where you should replace all the camshaft sprockets. So both on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the heads. So each of these cost me around $265.32, $264.33. And then for the other side was $312.07 and $311.08. Now, of course, you need oil. That ended up charging or costing me around $140. The Subaru coolant, the Subaru coolant, 2 of those was 60 bucks. The Subaru Master gasket set was $380. Now, the oil cooler cost me $330. And lastly, we have 4 NGK spark plugs costing me a total of $66. Now, all this together, let's see how much it costs. So totaling everything up here, this came out to be $11,809.46. Now, it's pretty on par with how much I paid for my FA20 rebuilds, which I won't really get into in this video, but that sounds about right to me, around $12,000, $13,000. Now, if you're to do the labor yourself, you could probably save somewhere in the realm of $4,000 to $5,000, depending on where you're located, the taxes, and also how you source some stuff. I ended up going with the EJ25 because I knew later down the road I was gonna wanna make power on the car. The car was completely stock at the time, had a catback exhaust, coil radiator, and IG AOS. Because at the time I was like, you know what, I'm very familiar with Subarus. I don't want to modify the STI. I want to keep it stock. I want to enjoy it for a bit. And once the car gave me problems, completely stock, I just said, screw it. I'm not even concerned about it. I want to have my fun. So that's why I went with the EJ550, because I knew I was going to make power on the car eventually. Now you can go with the Type RA short block, which I believe is about $1,000 cheaper, runs you about $2,700, $2,800 if I remember correctly. Just the short block from Subaru, already assembled, ready to go, ready to get dropped into the car. Now the Type RA block, it's a good block. A lot of people make a lot of power on it. However, it's still the same shitty cast pistons that you find in the regular Subaru short block for the EJ25, the STI. So there's not really a huge difference. It's not like, you know, it's just a magical thing that you drop in the Subaru and you can make a bunch of power and save money. That's not really how Subarus work. You either have to spend a lot of money or spend a lot of time, or somewhere in the middle. And the reason I didn't go with the EJ750, if I'm being honest with you guys, is because at the time, I just ran out of money. I had a certain amount of money I could spend on the rebuild, and the 750, I believe, was another $1,200. Sounds about right. It was around $5,200, not including taxes and stuff. And I just said, you know what, I just can't afford it at the time. And that's why I didn't get a 750. Now, I highly recommend, if you guys are gonna do a rebuild, please just do yourself a favor, bite the bullet, get $500, $600 from somewhere, and get the IG oil pickup, baffle, and pan. You will not regret it. It's just peace of mind knowing that if you take a hard turn, you know, you don't have to worry about oil starvation from the pickup tube, because you have so much oil capacity. I think you're going from 5.4 liters to 6.1 liters. So you have that additional, 0.7 liters of oil. And on top of that, the pickup itself is welded, very nice quality weld from IG, so you don't have to worry about it failing. And the baffle itself is improved, obviously. I'm very happy with how the rebuild turned out. I've been tuned for the last, I think, 6 months, which ended up being around 6,000 miles, as I don't daily the car. But when I do drive the car, I drive it. I don't mess around. I have fun with the car, and it's been great so far. Now, hopefully that gave you guys enough base knowledge to feel comfortable knowing how much you're gonna spend on a rebuild potentially for your EJ25, your STI. And with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys have any questions, make sure to leave them down below in the comments. I try to reply to everybody. And as always, I will catch you on the next one.